Lo siento mucho que no pude terminar mi explicación de la gramática en un video porque hablé mucho. Lo siento. Pero vamos a continuar. Voy a reexplicar un poco los superlativos. And so this construction is used to form the superlatives. Note that the noun is always preceded by a definite article and that de is the equivalent to the English inner of. Now, as I mentioned before, the noun can be omitted if the person, place, or thing referred to is clear. So before we ended the last video, I was able to give the example, El Restaurante Las Delicias. And somebody responds with, oh, es el más elegante de la ciudad. So, therefore, we already know we're talking about el restaurante. We don't need to repeat es el restaurante más elegante. It's just not necessary. Okay. Recomiendo el pollo asado. Es el más sabroso del menú. And so we don't have to have the noun because we already know we're talking about el pollo asado. Okay. So while más alone means more, el, la, los, or las with más means the most. And likewise, menos by itself can be less, but if it's el, la, los, or las, it means the least. So, es el café más rico del país. So, it's the most delicious coffee in the country. El menú menos, es el menú menos caro de todos estos. So, it is the least expensive menu of all of these. And in here, these were just statements thrown out. We didn't have prior references to what we were talking about. So, we want to leave café and menú in their sentences. Now, we also have something called the absolute superlative, or el superlativo absoluto. And this is kind of the equivalent of being like extremely or super or very. And you've probably heard it a lot with like muchísimo, like, en Phoenix, en junio hace muchísimo calor. Okay, so it's extremely, or it's super, it's very hot in Phoenix in June. Now, to form the absolute superlative, most adjectives and adverbs drop the final vowel if there is one and just add ísimo. And it is an adjective, so it will have a feminine as well as plural forms. So malo will become mal, and then ísimo. So el bistec está malísimo. Now, if it was la ensalada está malísima. Mucho becomes much or muchísimo. So comes muchísimo. And because we're talking about an action, it's always going to be the singular masculine form. Now, this is something you will not have a specific part to on your exam, but it is something that you should pay attention to. You may see it in the reading, and you may hear it in the listening. So just be aware of what it means. Now, there are some spelling changes that happen. We saw some of these, like the first row, we saw this with the yo form in the preterite, where the C changed to the QU, the G became a GU, and the Z became a C. The same kind of thing is going to happen here. So rico becomes riquísimo. Largo becomes larguísimo, and feliz, felicísimo. Now, words like fácil, which are two syllables and have an accent on the first syllable, that accent mark goes away because it's part of the ísimo, so facilísimo. Now, some words like joven and trabajador, instead of ísimo, it actually becomes sísimo, jovencísimo, trabajadorcísimo. And that's a tongue twister to say. Okay. So these are some of our absolute superlatives. Okay. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense to you. There's a difference of a superlativo and a superlativo absoluto. Your exam will actually focus more on the superlativo that you saw in the last video. So, bueno, nos vemos en clase.